Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Friday. Yes, I know, sorry, I'm in this room. You're going to have to stare at those cables for the next 15 minutes or so, as you point out in every single video. But I can't change it. I can't. Honestly, if I tried to change those cables, it would look a hell of a lot worse than that looks, believe me. And also, I'm determined to move out of this house because it's too small for to have two young children running around in it. So I'm determined not to do any work in it whatsoever before I move out on it. So apologies, you got to look at those dodgy cables for the next 15 minutes or so. But you don't want to hear me talk about that, do you? So let's talk about last night's game, shall we? And a couple of other bits. 1-0 win. On paper, you look at that, think, job done, easy. It was anything but. It was a horrible performance. Very nervy, far nervier than it should have been. And he had some proper flashbacks in those last 15 minutes or so of, Olympiacos, those sort of nights when it all went wrong right at the end. I think when they got that free kick in injury time, it was just like, oh no, here we go. You just already had visions of Barcelona turning up in the round of 32. But Arsenal managed to get through. They didn't play well. They scraped their way to a win thanks to Tierney's goal, but ultimately they got the job done. 5 wins from 6 in the Europa League group was enough to see them finish 2 points ahead of PSV. Mikel, speaking after the game, said I expected it to be a tough match. I've watched them the last few games, how they've changed since their new manager arrived, how they played against Bodo. You've seen it, and it was really difficult to get any momentum with the way they played and the way the game developed. We had to adapt to that. We had some big chances that we didn't put away, and that made the game more difficult in the last 15 or 20 minutes. We didn't control certain situations. We had to dig in, which we did. We found a way to win, and we're top of the group. And look, when this season is done and dusted, when you're in the knockout stages in a few months' time, no one is going to even remember the group stage games and the performances. It's just about getting through it. I mean, I can count on one hand. I saw Tim Stillman tweet. I'm sure lots of you know Tim, excellent guy to follow on Twitter for his all his Arsenal views and his brilliant women's coverage for Arseblog. I saw him tweet that he was sort of saying, I can remember about 4 or 5 group stage games since we qualified for the Europa League. It just doesn't matter. And he's true. He's absolutely bang on. It's just about getting through, winning the games, and then and getting into the knockout stages. And that's where Arsenal are. And so you can't really complain too much about it. And I don't really know what more there is to say about that, really. I mean, look, let's go through my player ratings, shall we, for last night, because I didn't get to do them after the game yesterday because I was pretty busy. We had Arteta and the mix zone to kind of try and speak to some players ahead of the Chelsea match. So I'll go through my player ratings. They're not great. They're pretty much all 6s. That's a little bit of a spoiler from now. Ramsdale 6. I thought he made one good save in the second half in the save that led to them scoring the goal that was disallowed for offside, which was clearly offside. But the actual first save, the initial save from Ramsdale, that would have counted had it gone in. So it was an important save for him. Other than that, he didn't really have to do too much save-wise, but he came and claimed a lot of crosses. So he got 6, and then I gave White, Holding and Gabriel. I gave all 3 of those 6s. White had a big part to play in the first goal, in the only goal, which is positive because he's doing that a lot now. Him on that overlap, he looks like a proper right-back. Now, fair play to him. I gave all 3 of those 6. I gave Tierney 7. Tierney gets man of the match for me because he scored the goal. Really good goal. Brilliant finish from him. And especially in the first half, he got forward well. He was a really big threat down the left-hand side. He caused them plenty of problems, I thought. So Tierney gets man of the match for me. He gets a 7. And then in midfield, I gave Elneny, good to see him back, first of all. He got 6 for me. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he never does. He just did what Elneny always does. And he lasted 60 minutes, and it's a big boost to have him back. Mikel Arteta will be delighted. He gets a 6. I thought Sambi did all right. Nothing great, but he got a 6. He was neat and tidy. Vieira, I gave a 5. It's a weird one with Vieira because he actually had more shots than anyone yesterday. He got into the most goal-scoring positions, really, of anyone. And he always does that. He pops up in the box. He gets on the end of things. He's always in a good position, but his finishing was poor yesterday. He could easily have walked away with a couple of goals, especially in the first half. He wasn't connecting properly. And although he had all those shots, when he wasn't getting in those positions, he wasn't really doing anything. And so it was a weird performance, I thought, from him. So he gets a 5 from me. Nelson, I gave a 5. As well, and Nketiah I gave a 5. They were the 2 wingers. They just didn't really do much. And Nketiah, I hate seeing him over on the left. Don't like it. I don't know why Mikel does it. He got 5. Nelson couldn't get into the game at all. He got 5. I gave Jesus a 6. A couple of chances for Jesus which he didn't take. Played pretty well, caused them problems at least. But yeah, you just want to see Jesus scoring a goal. at the moment. He had chances to do it, but he didn't take them, so he got a 6. So that's my player ratings. Like I said, Kieran, Tierney, man of the match with 7. No one else above that. Plenty of substitutes came on yesterday. Not going to really rate any of them because they made absolutely zero difference in that second half, which was a pretty torturous watch. Arteta threw on some of the big guns, I think, to try and get control of the game, but it just didn't happen. Saka didn't get into the game at all. Partey didn't bring any sort of stability to the central midfield. It was a horrible performance, no doubt about it. It's pretty much all you can say. First half was all right. Second half, just really, really bad. But as I said at the start, it doesn't really matter because they got the job done. Big worry for Tomiyasu, which was a big concern from the game. He came on, he was one of those substitutes in the second half, but he only lasted about 5 or 10 minutes. He was replaced by Cedric going off injured, and that's a big concern. So Tomiyasu was named in the Japan squad for the World Cup a couple of days ago, but now he's got to be a big doubt. Mikel Arteta couldn't really provide too much of an injury update after the game, which is understandable because it only just happened. He said it was a muscular injury. Now, we've seen this happen with Tomiyasu before. He'd been on a good little run where he'd stayed fit and was playing it every week, but this has happened again. And we saw last season when Tomiyasu went down with these sort of muscular injuries, he was out for quite a long period of time. With the World Cup only a few weeks away now, he must be a big doubt. There was a couple of Japanese reporters at the game yesterday, as there always are because they follow Tommy around, and they tried to get Mikel to speak on it and about the World Cup, and Mikel was very as he always does, was just like, I don't care. I'm worried about Arsenal-Chelsea on Sunday, not the World Cup. And, that's fair play. That's what Arteta's paid to do, worry about Arsenal, not Japan. But you could sense the worry with the Japanese reporters, and you could see Tomiyasu when he went off. He looked concerned and upset. So we'll wait and see. Arteta's talked about it. He said, look, we don't know. He felt something, and we didn't want to take any risks with the amount of games we're playing. It's part of it. It can happen in training. It can happen in games, and unfortunately, it's happened to Tommy. So I think fingers crossed it's all we can do that Tomiyasu gets back. I think we can safely rule Tomiyasu out of the Arsenal's last couple of games before the World Cup. I'd be surprised if he plays. That's just a hunch. That's not based on information, but just from what's gone on with Tomiyasu before when he's had these sort of injuries and the length of time he's been out, I'd be very surprised if he plays for Arsenal again before the World Cup. It's just a case of then whether Japan take a risk on him, give him an extra week or maybe even 2 weeks to see if he can be fit, because he's a very important player for them. Okay, so after the game, mixed zone, as always, players come through, and Mohamed Elneny was the player who stopped for reporters in the mixed zone. Obviously a big day for Elneny. It was his first start since August, since that injury against Fulham. He came back about a month earlier ahead of schedule, which Mikel Arteta was delighted about. He spoke about him in the press conference, and he said a few nice things at Elneny about coming back and what it meant. But he spoke about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Obviously, as soon as the full-time whistle went yesterday, all the attention turned to Sunday. Sunday is the first time that we're going to see Arsenal go up against Auba since he left. Spent 6 months at Barcelona, but he's already back in the Premier League. He's back with Chelsea across the road in London. You saw the video. I'm sure you've seen the sort of promo that BT have put out ahead of the game at the weekend where Auba says, I'm back, Arsenal. It's nothing personal. I'm blue, which I thought was a bit weird. But anyway, he did that. And Elneny was asked about Aubameyang, and I don't know if you remember, but in the All or Nothing documentary, when the whole sort of Aubameyang situation is unfolding and the cameras are following it at Colney, there was a scene in that documentary when Elneny was sitting around. I can't remember who he was talking to. Maybe Rob Holding was sitting around the cafe in the cafeteria at the training ground, and you heard him say, "Oh, the manager's got balls," and he was talking about the way Arteta was handling the Aubameyang situation and the fact that he'd booted him out, and it was just quite an interesting part of the documentary, I thought, and it sort of gave a little bit of an insight into what the players were thinking about the whole thing. And we spoke about Elneny was asked about that, and he was asked, look, was it the moment that Arteta really established himself in terms of the dressing room? And he said 100%. Everyone looked at themselves, because if Mikel did that to the captain of the team, what is he going to do with another player? This showed that we can't play around, that we have to be calm with the team and the way things are going. We have to stick with the team, not do something different. He was then asked a couple more things about it. He said, is this a moment that sort of unified the dressing room. Auba going, one way it could have backfired and everyone could have struggled because the captain had gone, the striker had gone. But in fact, it kind of unified the team in that second half of the season and the results started to improve. And he said, I think so because now everyone was scared. Everyone is scared with their position because this happened to Aubameyang. Of course, if anyone is the captain of the team and does a small mistake, they are going to have the same problem and no one needs that problem. So it was just really interesting, I thought, from Elneny talking there about how the rest of the players viewed that whole thing and the way that Arteta handled it. Clearly, they were thought, whoa, if Arteta can do this to Aubameyang, the captain, what on earth will he do to us if we step out of line? So basically, he's basically saying that we're scared of Arteta, scared of stepping out of line. It was a real moment of that his authority became clear to the rest of the dressing room that you just do not mess with Mikel Arteta. And this was interesting. He was talked about the sort of togetherness and that there are no big egos in it. Doesn't seem to be any big egos in the dressing room now. Kind of because Aubameyang wasn't named in this question, but it was part of the whole Aubameyang conversation. And he said, we don't allow big egos. This is a dressing room that we have now. Everyone loves each other and everyone works for each other. This is what actually makes our squad really strong because we don't have egos in the team. Like I said, Aubameyang wasn't mentioned in that by name by either Elneny or by the reporter asking the question, but it was all part of the Aubameyang conversation. I thought it was just a very interesting response as well. And there's no doubt that this dressing room at Arsenal now seems a hell of a lot better since Aubameyang went, since basically Lacazette went, since everything that went on last season, how last season was ending, and how it's been reformed this season. It just feels like this is a much more unified dressing room than it ever has been, and Arsenal are certainly reaping the benefits. Just look at the league table, look at the results this season, if to see that. So really interesting stuff, I thought, from Elneny yesterday on the Aubameyang stuff. So yeah, that's all that you'll see all those quotes. I mean, this video is going to be published at 12 o'clock, and you'll see all the quotes. I'll put a piece out on Goal at 12 because all these are embargoed, and there's more good stuff from Elneny at the moment. So it's well worth a read if you haven't read what he's had to say already. Okay, I just wanted to quickly talk about Kieran Tierney before the end of this video. Really pleased for him yesterday. Like I said in my player ratings, I gave him man of the match. I thought Tierney played very, very well, especially in that first half. Really good finish. Banging. I called it a half volley and I got totally abused by lots of people saying that it's not half volley. That is no way is that a half volley. Which I kind of understand in a way because it's got to be kind of almost like a bouncing ball for it to be hit it on the bounce for it to be a half volley, which I can understand. But yeah, maybe I angered the football purists by calling it that. But anyway, it was a really good finish and I thought he played very, very well. And I think he's probably going to play at the weekend against Chelsea. You imagine he will, with Tomiyasu now injured and Zinchenko didn't get any minutes yesterday, although he was on the bench. You're not going to suddenly throw Zinchenko straight into a game against Chelsea. I'd be very, very surprised. So I think you're going to see Tierney play there. And I thought his performance was really, really, really decent. And I can understand why Arteta has been doing this whole inverted left-back thing in the absence of Zinchenko, because that's why he brought Zinchenko. He wants that sort of formation. Tomiyasu may be able to do that better than Tierney because Tierney's the old-fashioned overlapping fullback. But there's still a place in the team for that. I don't understand. I've not agreed with the whole Tomiyasu at left-back thing. I thought it was a brilliant masterstroke against Liverpool and against Mohamed Salah. But since then, I've absolutely been in the sort of side of the argument where I think Tierney should be back in the team because although, yes, he can't provide that inverted sort of fullback and play that role as well as Zinchenko or Tomiyasu, what he can do is just get on that overlap, be that old-fashioned fullback and cause teams plenty of problems, and Arsenal can benefit from it. They did yesterday. He scored the goal. He almost created others. One brilliant bit of play down the left which resulted in a chance that Vieira should have scored. So I'm going to be more than happy to see him playing him at left-back against Chelsea. And you could see in this celebration yesterday, it's been a difficult few months for Tierney. There's a lot of pent-up frustration released in that celebration yesterday, and I think everyone was delighted. You saw the reaction of teammates. Everyone was delighted for him. They know it's been difficult for him. And the way they all responded, I think, says an awful lot about how they view Kieran Tierney and what his position in the dressing room is. So well done, Kieran. And fingers crossed he can produce a similar sort of performance on Sunday at Stamford Bridge. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. Everyone, please do enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy the start of your weekend. And I'll speak to you very, very soon.